Marjorie Lewis.
Yeah, this is me. Hey, first up, man, and I swear, about boy.
For tuning in, and welcome to the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown. This is your girl Miss M coming at you right now with some more great sounds, some more great information, the blessings of the Lord pouring down on us today. It's been a beautiful day, a little warm, but you know, there's some places that are a whole bunch hotter than this. Mm-hmm. So we're just glad that we're on this side of glory, basking in the goodness and the blessings of the good Lord. I got my guy Toy.
Hey, hello, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, sweet thing. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're able to hang out with me here. I was expecting my man Michael Jones. Where you at? Award you one for doing that such a wonderful job on editing. Giving praise and honor to the one who created us, the good Lord, in his mercy and his grace. I'm going to ask you to take a listen to Miss Cynthia Williams from her CD, Completely Yours, featuring the one and only Fred Hammond. And this is one of our tunes that has been selected for our top 40 compilation CD, Completely Yours by Cynthia Williams, the 2025 compilation CD of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown. And we're going to be playing two tunes right behind this. Now, anyone that can call in and tell me the name of this young man, I've been playing it for you for almost a year and a half now. So if you can call in and tell me who this is, and ever who's listening, I know some of you know, and I know the guy that gave it to me knows, so I don't mind if you call in either, Lamont, if you're listening. We're going to be getting Lamont Butler back in here with us pretty soon, too, so look for him coming through, and we want to keep in continued prayer those who have lost their loved ones during this terrible, terrible season of duress and stress and turmoil. But the good Lord told us what was going to happen if we didn't seek his face and if we didn't do his will. So some of these things are to be expected, some of them are not, especially when we lose our children to violence. And we want our listening audience to probably have a special prayer today for Sister Connie Lewis and Brother Ron Lewis. Ron, I know you're listening. I'm so sorry to hear about your loved one. Connie told me it was her great-grandson that got murdered over there in Park Hill. Wow. 2 Saturdays ago now. 14 years old. Yeah,
my son will be dead 6 years tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And you know, for the first couple of years, it was kind of hard, but after I graduated in his name, it kind of took a lot off for me. But, you know, knowing tomorrow, the day he got killed, and, you know, it's still kind of lingering on me. But I think this year I ain't going to try not to get too down. Because
grief is good. You have to grieve in order to come through the trauma and the drama of losing. The physical presence of a loved one is hard to deal with. Right. But however, when we rest and trust in what the Lord says, we know that weeping may endure for a night, but there's joy in the morning. Yes, ma'am. So, again, in the death of 14-year-old Cameron, we just ask the community to please continue to lift up the Lewis family and Miss Connie especially, such a sweet lady. She joined our church about a year ago now, and such a sweetheart. Ronnie, you didn't even tell me you had a sister, but that's okay. That's okay. But anyone that can tell me the name of this next artist, we're going to give you one of our compilation CDs from 2024 of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown, coming right at you.
Bright light on a summer day, what can get in our way? Don't need wings to fly. I was meant to worship you.
All right. That's right. We were created to worship.
Amen.
The Lord God Almighty, the Lord mighty in battle, the omnipotent one, the great I am that I am that I am. I tell you, the Juneteenth celebrations have been off the chain, Toy.
Yes, yes. I enjoyed myself at the Kentucky Opera. That was my first time ever seeing an opera in my life, and it was more than what I expected. The choir was good. You was great. Curling, she anticipated and sung, songs, had a little piece, and I would like to go to a real opera, like a bigger opera, because now I can understand from what I learned in school about sopranos and altos and the things that go together.
Yes.
Yeah, so I want to just thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for
and let me,
there.
Experience something that nobody ever opened the door to me in music, and to be able to capture it and record it. And if you want to see, you can go to faderzup.com. You can watch it on there and see what the show look like if you want to go on there.
Well, I tell you, you do a wonderful job in cataloging and keeping it
I appreciate
great.
that.
Oh man, you're on point. A lot of talents like yours, it's. I understand the bag, as the young folks, that's what y'all call it, chasing the bag, and getting paid for your work. And you should be compensated for all of your work, the hard work.
But God bless me every day when he wake me up.
Yes, he does.
So as long as he wake me up, I'm gonna find a way.
Oh, yes, sir.
But, if it's by myself, I'm still going to get there as long as he's with me.
All right. Well, he's going to definitely be with you. He's not going to leave you out there alone. That's for daggone sure.
Right. Well, people leave you alone now.
Well, people can leave you alone, but the Lord won't. You want some people to leave you alone.
Yes, I do. I'm glad some people are gone.
Yes, Lord, have mercy now. Yeah, but the Lord never leaves us. He never forsakes us. And it's just a wonderful blessing when we begin to utilize our talents for kingdom building and for uplifting one another, because that's how we'll get it done. That's how we'll get the work done that we need to get done in our communities, and especially in protecting our children from the wrath to come. We have to expose them to the truth of the Lord and accountability and responsibility. We've done too much sometimes for our children.
Right.
And their anger and frustration comes from not knowing how to operate in and of and for themselves, because we have taken on the responsibility of doing it for them. And it's not our job. It's our job to parent them and to show them the right way.
Well, Bishop always says, you need to bring the kids to church. The kids ain't growing up in the church like we did.
Yeah.
So they losing the value of respect for the parents. And I understand what Bishop said. I went to church, and I ain't saying I turned out, I got into trouble growing up, but hey, I know the Lord. I remember the field trips with the church during these days, during the 4th of July, the church used to take us to Kings Island, take us on field trips. None of that really goes on in most of the churches now. St. Stephen's, somewhere like that, I'm sure they got the kids involved, but a lot of churches they ain't putting the energy in the kids no more.
Well, we have to learn how to regenerate that ways and means of bringing them closer and getting them acclimated to the word of the Lord, because they say you don't send your children to church, you come with them. Vacation Bible School starts at our church on tomorrow. It's going to run for a week there at 1057 South 28th Street, and we're also going to have a youth festival coming up in July the 12th, so I'll be bringing you more information about that. But in our communities, there are some things that all of the churches should be actually partnering and working together to create big community events for these young folk, and teaching them some skills.
Like a big talent show against, not competing, but more, maybe a gospel choir, and everybody come out and participate from the kid gospel choir or something like that. It would be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, talent shows are always good, but we need to do more than speak to their talent. We need to teach them some skills.
Yeah.
So,
some labor
just like
skills.
Some labor skills.
Rehab. One thing I never forget, my granddaddy and my stepfather, Bruce Citron, he used to always tell me when I was growing up 10, he made sure I learned how to read a tape measure. And he told me how important it was. Then I didn't realize it, but as I got older and grew into a man, and I started working on houses and doing drywall and stuff, I learned a lot of black men can't even read a tape measure.
That's right.
Can't use a screwdriver, a hammer.
Well, properly, because
properly.
You gotta hit the nail a certain way to make it.
Then how you use a drill.
When you go bang, 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 you're not doing it right. It's supposed to be no more than 3 taps, and it's supposed to go in, right? But again, skill sets are are taken for granted,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know. But we come from a nation of builders.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, they can't build pyramids.
Mm-mm.
Not no more. I don't care how well you can read a tape measure.
Yeah.
See, they can't build, and they didn't have nails. They had mortar. They made it out of mud.
Right.
But still, it wasn't concrete. It was mortar. It was
Right.
mud. So, you know, the good Lord equips us
Yes, ma'am.
in order to equip others. So our young people need to find some ways and means of taking care of themselves just in case, you know. So a young man like yourself who are fathers and you have the skills that you have, and although again tragically you lost your son. You said it'll be a year.
No, it'd be 6 years.
6 years.
He died in 17. 17 and 18. We died at 18, and like I said, tomorrow will be a 6-year anniversary, and I just lost my grandmama too, like 90 days ago. So it's, you know, it's gonna be a kind of not, you know, too much of a rough one tomorrow, today, but hey, I got a good support group around me, and you know, still got my kids. You know, they'll call and check on me, and my little brother Chauncey, he'll call and check on me. So, you know, it's just how to deal with life. As long as I don't break. You know, I learned when you go through some grieving, breakups, or money issues, a lot of people break.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come back to see them, they lose everything. But this is when you're going through trouble or having grief in your life, that's when you got to boss up. And you have to check yourself and really, you know, quit blaming people and take a good look at yourself and work on yourself first to better yourself later. You know, later on when you may when people see you and say, well, his son died, he ain't out here drunk every day, or he ain't on the corner going crazy, he ain't walking down the street talking to himself. So, you know, like I said, I'm going to fight through it, and I hope everybody pray for me. Give me somebody pray for me, or, you know, say a good prayer for me today and tomorrow for me and my family, because it's going to be a rough one.
Well, we pray for you right now in the name of Jesus, and everyone listening, just send up a prayer for Toy Lewis and his family, for Miss Connie Lewis and her family. Ronnie, you are in our prayers, my brother, and all of us are standing in the need of prayer. All of us need prayer. But we must consciously learn to pray the good prayer. The prayers of the righteous avail much. And many times we're not looking at our situation really for what it is. You know, we do wallow in our grief. But again, the joy of the Lord can fill those spaces, and it can ease the troubled mind. So I just ask that the community, that we begin to come together and war not against these principalities, but you understand, the war within ourselves and overcome it, so that we can do a better job of taking care of our children. So we're going to take a listen to Brother Turley Richardson at this time. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with Turley, but they called him the Blue-Eyed Soul Brother from Louisville, Kentucky. He had a 3, 4, 5 octave voice. He was on Johnny Carson one time singing "Summertime," and the brother blind. He was gone blind, Turley, but the brother still can show enough blow. So we're gonna take a listen to Turley Richards at this time, talking about what's going on. All right. He said he wants to know what's going on. What's going on, y'all? Are you enjoying the soulful sounds of Derby Town today? Well, I am. I'm glad to be in the house. Yes, I am. And I tell you, on yesterday, we took a trip down to Nicholasville, Kentucky, the Kentucky Center for African American Heritage. Took a busload of folks down to Nicholasville to Camp Nelson, which was a war camp back in the 1800s, where the black recruits enlisted and had their families. And I tell you, if you've not been down there, you need to go. It was a wonderful spiritual experience. I tell you, it's nothing like being on those lands where actually our ancestors fought, bled, and died so that I can be where I am today. And the work of the National Park Service to preserve that site, and all of the gentlemen from all over the world. There were a lot of veterans. As far as California, they came in yesterday.
Wow,
and New Orleans, they came in from California. They say it's been a 40-year battle instituting this great cause. And again, Senator Neal and a couple of other senators from Kentucky were there on yesterday. Ed Hamilton came down and gave us a presentation on his one of his war statues, and it was really a phenomenal day on yesterday. And then, for those of you who don't know, in Simpsonville, Kentucky, there is a memorial cemetery there of about 25 black soldiers who were murdered during a massacre when they were driving cattle to Louisville, coming to Louisville, and they were attacked by the Confederate Army and murdered. And as many times as I've been in Simpsonville and through Simpsonville, never knew about it. But there's a marker there and the actual tombstones of those guys. And it's just a part of our history that we should not forget and that we should continually make sure that everyone knows about. Not just the children. We need to educate ourselves on connecting the dots. And I want to give a shout out to my man Steve Ray, who has been so instrumental in connecting the dots here for the Soulful Sounds of Everytown on so many levels. You know, he told us about the book of the Chitlin Circuit, and he brings so much to the table. Old School Sunday 101, he's going to be coming back through here pretty soon. You'll enjoy Steve. He's a lot of fun.
I've been down there too. Like I told you, I've been to Nicholasville graveyard. Unfortunately, when I was a young man with the prison at 19, I was in a Class D, and we used to go to Nicholasville Cemetery to cut the grass, and they had their own black cemetery. I never seen. That's the only time I ever seen. All the black people got their own cemetery.
Oh yeah,
and
had their own hospital.
Yeah, and they had statues. They had, they had just 1801, and it was just a statue with a number on it. And it wasn't no name, it wasn't no just a little made statue. And we used to clean it up. And I'm sorry, I really missed that trip, but I was tired. And,
it's okay, baby.
I really wanted to go, but.
But like I
never
said,
forget
stopping us from going back.
Yeah, I never forget that. They had their own black cemetery, and you could tell from the white cemetery and the black cemetery the difference. Because the black cemetery, the tombstones wasn't official. They was like little plates, little plaques, little just made up clay type tombstone. Yeah. But one thing I can say, they do take care of it. They take care of it down there.
Oh,
they keep it cut. Look better than Greenwood Cemetery down there.
Well, now.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, we wait on the powers that be to do things sometimes, the status quo, when we ought to be taking care of that thing ourselves.
Yes, ma'am.
How about that?
Yeah, we should.
Because if it's my brother, and I tell you, accountability.
Yes,
we cannot expect other people to do for us what we should be doing for ourselves.
Right.
And then when you expect someone else to do your job, and even if they do your job the job, it's not going to be done to your satisfaction. Then you're going to complain about that.
That's why I cut my grass.
Don't let anybody else cut. I understand that. Everybody don't know how to cut grass. Shame that it be. Show them, baby, because child, don't make me start talking about grass cutting. Who cuts the grass and then leaves the grass in the grass? That's what I want to know, y'all. Tell me.
Somebody in a rush.
Make that make sense. It ain't even being in a rush. It's just being slothful. That's just being lazy. But baby, I ain't gonna talk about nobody. I'm just gonna say what it is. But anyway, I love y'all, right? Yes, I do. I love y'all like I ain't never been loved before. Yeah. We gonna continue on with some more great soulful sounds of Everytown. Now, somebody tell me who this is. I'm not gonna tell you who it is. Now, I know some of you listeners out there with the astute ear will recognize this voice, but she was an international star. And she is from Louisville, Kentucky. So anybody can call in 795-1019. And don't forget that we do live stream this show in WLLVonline.com. So there's no excuse for you not taking a listening to the Soulful Sounds of Everytown coming right at you. All right now, I done gave you 2 cuts off of them. And I'm going to give you this last one, so I'm going to give you time to contemplate just a little while longer. Hold on. Go ahead. Now, I know if you didn't know, you should know by now, right?
Going to Chicago. Sorry, baby, but I can't take you.
A little bit, yeah. You know who it is? Can't think?
Going to Chicago.
She messed around and told you half her name in this last song. So if y'all ain't calling in, that's just because y'all don't want to. And that's all right with me, because it's just a extra compilation CD that I'm going to keep in my reservoir. All right? So we can ready to close out this first hour of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown and lead into what is normally our Black Roots Bluegrass segment. Unfortunately, Bertram is not able to be here with us this afternoon, but we're going to still spin some of his music. We won't get to listen to his prolific, mesmerizing voice live. And unfortunately, last week we had some technical difficulties, and we didn't get that segment of his show recorded, but we're going to re-record it on next week. But what we got coming up for you in this next hour is going to be special nonetheless. We have the one and only Mr. Michael Jones, co-producer, co-author of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown's book, for which he has won a fantastic and fabulous award. So can't wait. Don't turn off that dial, as old Cliff Butler. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Just stay right here for the next hour of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown.
Every day. Every day I have the blues. Yes, every day. Every day I have the blues.
See you next Sunday.
Broadcasting from the Shirley's Way Studios, committed to the kingdom and community. 1240 AM, 101.9 FM WLLV, New Albany, Louisville.
W270CR, New Albany, Louisville.
The following program is paid for by the Kentucky African American Heritage Center.
Don't matter.
How do you do, 502? This is Bertram Marcus C. Brooks, and I am the host of Black Roots Bluegrass, stories of the Black experience here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We're telling stories to you every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. on WLLV 101.9 FM here in Louisville.
The Eleanor Rigby. Let me have the new book, the Eleanor Rigby. Let me have the Eleanor Rigby.
It's a beautiful
Have y'all-
thing.
You had it on? No? The new bird? Play it. What you got up there?
How do you do, 502? This is Bertram Marcus C. Brooks, and I am the host of Black Roots Bluegrass, stories
Okay,
of the
play me
Black
something.
experience here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
I can't hear you.
We're
Play me
telling
something and then I'll
stories
come
to
in.
you every Sunday from 5 to 6 p.m. on WLLV 101.9 FM here in Louisville, Kentucky. Come and join us. Be inspired. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay,
Amen,
that's,
amen.
That's he said amen. That's right. That's the one and only Louisville's own Jonah Jones hollering at you like, hey, Moody.
Sound pretty good.
Moody. Yeah, so we have in the house with us today the one and only again, Mr. Michael Jones. How's it going, Michael?
It's going pretty good today.
It's going pretty good today. Yeah. Each day on this side of glory is a fabulous day, a fantastic day. So we're just glad to be in it. So I've got Michael in the studio with us today so that he can tell us about all the wonderful work that he's been doing as a music historian here in Louisville, Kentucky. Michael, how long have you been doing what you do?
Probably 20 years or so. It took me 10 years to write my first book, which was Louisville Jug Music.
Yeah.
Came out in 2014. And then the latest book, Soulful Sounds of Derbytown, the history of black music in Louisville, came out last year.
So you were telling Toy and I that how you got so interested in doing what you do is because most of your friends during high school were musicians, huh? And so following them around and seeing what they do and then writing it down, you begin to pull it all together.
Well, my family, my cousin is Linda Blakely, who sung with Fatback.
Wow.
So growing up, when I was around kind of the music thing,
Right.
because she would go on tour and come back, and at the holidays and stuff, you know. And so I had the interest in music. I knew a little bit. Also, my uncle married with Winston Pickett's niece, because you know, like they're from Louisville, and I grew up on the block down them. So I was around all this music, but old music didn't interest me. I was young. Run DMC was my favorite band and everything. And then I ended up going to Manual High School and became friends with a lot of people who are musicians and stuff. And so my friend Billy Higgins, who I was friends with in 9th grade, was a guitar player, and he was working with Player. And so I would kind of, hear stories about him. And I'm a journalist by profession.
What's up?
And when I wrote for the school newspaper, and we got all these musicians, and they wanted, me to write about their bands, all my friends. And originally I graduated from high school, went to UK, and I dropped out after a few years, came home, and all of my friends were like stars. Billy's touring around with Player. One of my friends was in the indie rock band. They had a record deal and all this stuff. And so I started writing for Leo. And I wrote news stories, but I also covered music. And then one day I went into a music store, and I came across a CD from Austria. And it was called Clifford Hayes and the Jug Bands of Louisville. And it was all black musicians. And I had always been brought up to think of jug music as this white mountain music. So I was like, is this Louisville, Kentucky, and why are all these people black? And then when I went back, I got into it. Being a journalist, you fall through these rabbit holes, you know? And so I started doing research, and I wrote an article about it, and a couple years later, a publisher contacted me, and they were like, we've been looking for someone to write a book about jug bands, and you know more than anybody else we could find.
Wow.
So that's how that ended up coming about. But it turned out, I'm sure you remember Lewis Coleman, Reverend Coleman.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I was going to write this book on jug bands. I didn't really know where to start. And I was interviewing Lewis Coleman. We were having coffee. And one of the women that worked with him was called Maddie Mathis. And Maddie was in the hospital. And Lewis, just out of the blue, said, her father was a famous blues musician. And I said, what song did he write? What did he sing? And he said, I don't know. He used to blow into a jug. So I've been looking for Earl McDonald, was the jug player who was the leader of this band, this CD I found. And Maddie Mathis was her daughter. And so I was able to talk to her about this a few weeks before she died. So it was like I was just meant it kind of fell into my lap. And she had thought that nobody would ever be interested in it. She hadn't really talked about it that much.
After you wrote that book, what did you get out of, after you wrote the book and you did all the research and all the knowledge, what was the best thing that you got out of the book from Black history or from Louisville that you can say to spread to the listeners?
Something that people don't realize is that the banjo is an African instrument.
I didn't know it.
It's based on lutes, like these African lutes that came around, and a lot of stuff like the kazoo.
Yes, sir.
And all. you always see it with the banjo, and that's because in Africa they would have these in mass they would put these horns called the voice disguisers, because when you're messing around with spirits, you don't want them to be able to follow you back home.
Wow.
And the kids of the descendants of the enslaved people,
Yes, sir.
you know, the enslaved people, they would go to the white churches, then they do their own thing. And some of these kind of rituals and traditions existed, but they lost their religious context over time.
Wow.
So that's why we have the kazoo, but it's a kid's toy.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
stuff like
Pretty
that.
cool.
And so once you like know the real history
Yes,
of
sir.
it, you know the history of how the banjo came about, how enslaved people in Haiti and Jamaica. If you go back and you read the planners, everybody talks about, you know, that they were carrying these banjos.
Right.
They're carrying it just makes you think about Black history and American history
yeah.
in a different way.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what we're going to do then. Here in a moment, we're going to take a listen to Louisville's own Sarah Martin doing "Ain't Nobody's Business If I Do." And again, when you hear about the Ballad Kings, there were so many when the Jug Band Festival. You said that's going to be reinstituted. Again pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I'm part of an organization called the National Jug Band Jubilee, and we bring in jug bands from all over the country, and we did it for 18 years, but you know, COVID kind of put a stop to that for a while, and we tried to do it one time after COVID, but we had lost a bunch of people. And so we're hopefully going to get it back together again. But Sarah Martin grew up here in Louisville in Smoketown. She was at one time the highest paid Black entertainer in the country.
Wow.
They called her the famous Moanin' Mama. She was known for her fine gowns and having diamonds in her teeth.
Wow.
And she was also like kind of a scout for a record company.
Wow.
So Sylvester Weaver, who was the first one to play slide guitar on the record, he and her in 1923 recorded the first just guitar and vocal record. And then Sarah went in with the Louisville Jug Band, went into the studio and produced 10 records that became like Sarah Martin's Jug Band and started a craze that lasted until the Great Depression.
Do you feel Louisville as a whole from that time now to now? Because I know Player. I used to live in L.A. with, you know, I'm good friends with Smokey. I met Black and Static out there. I know them too, and I lived out there like 6 months in Hollywood with them. So I know they was like my mentors. Like I got a studio and they taught me everything. So from everything you learned, do you think Louisville's music have been swept on the rug?
Yeah, I think we got written out of American popular music by the record companies.
Yeah.
They want to simplify everything.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, so jazz started in New Orleans,
Yes, sir.
even though there are Black people in river towns like Louisville and Cincinnati that were going to New Orleans back and forth on those boats.
Right.
So they were taking culture there and taking it back to where they're. So in Louisville, we got string bands and brass bands at the same time as everything was going on in New Orleans was going on in Louisville.
Wow.
And then musicians, when you go back, they all say Louisville's a money town.
Right.
Because the Derby, even to this day, any band can get a job. And so if you look at the old routes, the Chitlin Circuit, if you're working your way to Chicago and Indianapolis, you're going to stop in Louisville.
Right.
You know,
but
so
the Chitlin Circus, they was with the real circus.
Yeah.
I learned that I graduated from Fort Sales University. We had a history class on Black history music, and it's taught us about the Chitlin Circuit. And, you know, that's where all the Black artists, the only way they could get seen, they had to go with the circus, the real circus, like the animal circus.
Yeah,
that's the only way.
and
that's the only way they got exposure is to run with the circus. So yeah.
Well, right now we're gonna take a listen to Miss Sarah Martin singing "Ain't Nobody's Business If I Do."
You know, the guy who wrote this is from Bowling Green, Porter Granger, and she was the first one to do this.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So
you got good hits. You know a whole lot, don't you? He's on it. He knows it.
There ain't nothing I can do, or nothing I can say. That folk don't treat us.
If and I do. That's the one and only Miss Sarah Martin, Louisville's own. So tell us that great story you just told us about Sarah. Who wrote that song?
Porter Granger wrote that song, and he's from Bowling Green, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And Sarah was actually the first person to record that. And Sarah is buried in the Louisville Cemetery on Papa Level Road, and I was part of a group that helped get her a headstone.
Yes. Okay.
She is buried in an unmarked grave, and Sylvester Weaver, the blues guitarist, and Earl McDonald, the juggler, all buried there, and we helped get them gravestones.
And they're beautiful gravestones, have their pictures on them.
Yeah,
and all of that.
Biographies.
And biographies. Yeah. It's a wonderful thing that you guys did. The Kentuckiana Blues Society, I know Keith Clements, who's one of the co-writers of the Soulful Sounds of Derby Town compilation book, was instrumental in doing a lot of that legwork too. So I really applaud all of you historians who have, again, allowed Louisville to be recognized, not just for the Derby, but of the wealth of talent and celebrity that have hailed from Kentucky. Because, like I said, a lot of people didn't know that Johnny Graham played with Earth, Wind & Fire. They don't know that he's from Louisville, Kentucky. So, and like you say, church, the Funkadelic, Parliament Funkadelic. I mean, this.
Kush,
that's what I'm saying.
James Brown and Funkadelic, Kush Griffith.
Yeah,
but
Roach Cochran, he played for everybody. He played for everybody. So hey,
and after the Civil War, Louisville was one of the most popular, important cities in the country because we were the basis for the L&N Railroad. Controlled all the intact railway to the south, and then we also had the riverboat. So if you wanted to do business with the South, Louisville was the place to be. So all these ex-Confederates moved to Louisville and they basically took over the city. Took over the culture. That's why we got all the Confederate statues and stuff, even though we weren't in the Confederacy. But also, black people from all over moved here too. And then during the Great Migration, when everybody was heading to Chicago and stuff, everybody couldn't go there straight away. So some people worked their way to Chicago or something. So they stopped in Louisville. So that's, logistics. I always say logistics is what we do. From the riverboat to UPS, and it's because of our location that Louisville has been so important in music. Like I said, we get all these, we're like a way station, and we get a lot of people stopping here and bringing their culture with them.
So now today, from you doing like your study, your research, for artists today coming up, not just in any genre, would you say Louisville is a place to grow your music? If you want to grow your music, you might have to move to Nashville, move to LA, move to Texas or Florida. So
one thing I would say is that, like, you can be anywhere. It's like technology has made it so you can do your music anywhere. But as far as the infrastructure, I think that's what we're lacking in Louisville. Like, artists need a place to fail. A young guy coming up or a young singer, they're not going to be the best. They need a proving ground. And there's not a lot of clubs and stuff now. Amateur night. Amateur night, open mics.
I never thought about that.
That's the one thing that I see, because we got a lot of talent in this city right now. We got the Nappy Roots around, Jack Harlow and all that. And Bryson Tiller, we produced Bryson Tiller and all that. But that's one thing I see a lot of talented young people who need some seasoning.
Yeah.
And actually, this is an article. I was talking to my cousin is a gospel singer.
Okay.
And we were talking about black music, and he said that he could tell which singers on the charts came out of the church.
Yeah.
He's like, it used to be that because the church, that's where originally black people got their musical training.
Definitely Smokey did.
Was in the church. And now you see a lot of like SZA or something. They're more pop influence.
Right.
They got, and it's actually the white women, the Adeles and stuff that do the runs and stuff. You'd think Adele came from the black church, like that. And so that was like a weird culture thing that he pinpointed because he's from the church. But I was like, I'm actually going to write an article about that. My friend has a magazine called the African American Folklorist, and I'm a columnist for it.
Wonderful. We'll be looking forward to that. But the church is the proving ground for everything that we do.
I wish I would have grew up playing the piano. Because I waited later on in life to play the piano. And I seen a young guy, he's probably about 7 or 8, and he was, I said, I missed out growing up.
But part of it, with music, it's not just always about music because it's business.
Right.
And you'll know, there was this change around the 80s where all the bands started disappearing.
Right.
You know, we used to have great bands like Kool and the Gang and Adele and all that. And now it's just like artists, because it's easier for record companies. You don't got to pay everybody and all that,
Well, that's why I think, we've been talking about doing artist development. And I've had quite a few of veteran musicians that say that they would volunteer their time and effort to, again, create those amateur nights and create those talent shows that will offer the proving ground that's needed for our up-and-coming musicians to cut their teeth, so to speak. So we're going to talk about here, after we take a listen to some more great music of Louisville, Kentucky, this book that you won this award. What was this award that you won, Michael?
Okay. Last year we got voted the best local history by the Louisville Historical League. We won the Sam Thomas Book Award. And then a few weeks ago, the Independent Publishers Association gave us 2 awards. One was a gold medal for best book in the Southeast, and the other was for we came in second for best cover in the nation.
Oh, that's a beautiful cover. I was telling Bobby Lefford about that yesterday. I said, Bobby, you all over his book. He said, was it just pictures? I said, no, man, there's a lot of good reading in this book. So you guys did a fabulous job. Ken Clay and Michael Jones and Gary Falk and Ronald Lewis and Miss Claiborne. She came in. Look, Miss Claiborne, that's why they got that I'm Glad About It compilation out with the storybook collection now, because there's gospel music again. The church is and will always be the go-to spot for our culture. And when it comes to music, like I said, when we talk about the Phil Hollow before we even got instrumentation, and when you bring up the fact of the how the banjo is an original African instrument, the strings and the beads, and I mean, we'd use anything to make some sounds. That's why when we be talking about rap music's been around since the beginning of time. But anyhow and anyway, we're going to go and take a listen to some more Soulful Sounds of Derby Town coming right at you. That's the All right now. Bishop said if anybody asked, if you really want to know, Bishop will set you straight, won't he, Toy?
Yeah, he'll get you straight, and he'll get your life together if you listen to him.
And he'll tear up your piano and your organ. My man. Yes, sir. So again, we're right here in the studio today on the Soulful Sounds of Derby Town, doing Black Roots Bluegrass. The narratives, the stories behind the music are always so interesting. And I tell you, I did not know that Linda Blakely was your cousin. She was a phenomenal artist, a beautiful, beautiful young woman with a phenomenally beautiful voice, and gone way too soon. But the Lord in his infinite wisdom, does what he does, how he does it. And we've just got to go along with the program. Yes, we do. But again, Michael, this Soulful Sounds of Derbytown book, tell us a little bit about how it came to be.
Okay. And you can get the book at the Carmichael bookstore or at butlerbooks.com. But it started out as a photo exhibit that you were part of, Marjorie, at the African American Heritage Center. Ken Clay, every year, he does this Celebrating the Legacy of Black Louisville event. So he got a group together to do collect photos of local musicians, and we collected almost 300. Wow. And U of L helped us to reproduce, get a good quality, and we did a timeline around the center. And then Christy Brown from Brown Foreman family saw it and said, this should be a book and I'll pay for it. And so all of us being music experts, you know, we thought, we'll do this in a year, so 8 years later, because we just did not really realize the depth of music, and we didn't even get everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was
you know, there's like everybody comes up to me and says, "Oh, this and you forgot this person, or you should have had that person." And the thing is, it's just too big of a job for one book.
It's right. That's when I said you'd have to have a second edition of this, and in a way, again, for us to do that, all of you listeners, all of you musicians, is for you all to get busy writing down your information. And it wouldn't be so hard for editors and writers like Michael to pull it together if you should be in control of your own narrative. You know, people, you can ask people to do things for you, but when someone else writes your story, some things are going to get left out. Ask me about it. That's why I do the Marianne Fisher one-woman show, the real songbird of the South, you know, the real Marianne Fisher story. You can't allow other people to tell your story. So if you all begin to write down your story now, and then we can compile it, and Michael, you know, with help, because Michael did, I watched what this brother did. I saw and personally what this brother did and what he has done in our community with the Leo, with the Black Scene. I used to write for Black Scene. Dr. Young, when they were alive, when they first started Black Scene, I was a reporter for Black Scene. So, you know, we all are teachers. We all are an integral part of our story. So if you want to see a second edition of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown that talks to individuals that you felt were left out of this first edition, then let's get busy. All you got to do is call us at 795-1019. Let us know who you are, and we'll make it happen.
I want to say it's hard when you're trying to you're dealing with musicians, because you know musicians can be flaky anyway. But then you got nicknames. So we had one guy. His name was A Guy, and then another one called Aggie. So I'm the editor, and I'm like, are Aggie and A Guy the same person? What's Church's last name? And we talked to people. We did get Church in the book, but we talked to people. I talked to people who were in bands with Church, and they was like, I never heard them called anything but Church. So I was like, I can't.
But is there one person that you wish you would have got in there? You would say one person that after you wrote the book, you probably just said, I forgot.
Oh man, there was a guy who came up to me, and his wife is an opera singer, and we did leave her out, and I can't remember her name offhand. But I would say my biggest regret about the book is that we didn't get deeper into the hip hop scene, the local hip hop scene. Right. And I think
but then you'll be going everywhere chasing people for
we're
that.
We're going to play some Nappy Roots for you. We're going to play some Nappy Roots for you today.
I'm 55, and I was the youngest member of the group. And so we got like underground sounds and Underground Mafia and Player and all that. because that's what I remember.
Yeah. Right.
But like, you know, the newer artists and stuff, you know, it's just none of us were really.
And we got Sam Majesty, honey. We got some folk around here killing it, y'all. But we gonna play y'all some more music now, cause we talk all day long. Y'all know we will. Play us some music, Harry.
I forgot about that last week. Y'all record Jeffrey.
All right, that's the one and only Newbert talking about it's been such a long time. And so, Michael, you were telling us here that Mr. Clay is going to be getting an award as a hometown hero pretty soon. One of the authors of the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown.
Yeah, King Clay, who you know, does World Fest and everything, and he put this project together. He was interviewed on KET last week on Louisville Life, and he's going to be getting a hometown hero banner sometime. And then also our book launch party was a concert. We said we were taking it from the page to the stage, and that was filmed by Kentucky to the World, and that's going to start airing on KET in July.
Ooh.
July 15th is the first day.
Oh, I think I opened that show, didn't I? Me and Big Papa Stampley,
you
right?
and Big Papa Stampley.
Watch out now, I'm going to see myself on the TV station. Y'all better get in line for my autograph, is all I got to say.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one.
Fabulous. You going to be the first one?
Yeah, I'll be the first one.
And there has been talk about trying to turn the book into a documentary.
It would be fabulous.
Cool.
It needs to be.
It needs to be.
It needs to be, because again, there is such a breadth and wealth of individuals who, and again, they weren't left out on purpose or for any reason other than it was such a tremendous project. There's just too much to tell at one time. As you say, you attempted and thought this was going to be done in a year, and it took 8.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, you have to get, first of all, as a journalist, Michael, we have to be, because our journal, and like I said, in our right, and you have to be very, very sure of what you're putting on paper and signing your name to.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you can get sued for libel, you can get sued for a lot of things. Besmirching people's character.
Right.
You can get sued for a lot of stuff, so you have to be careful what you write down and sign your name.
Well, each chapter of the book starts out with a historical essay.
Yes.
Okay.
About the genre of music. So it starts out with gospel,
Of
we
course.
go back to the beginning of the black churches, and we talk about this guy, William H. Gibson, who introduced instruments to the black church. He came here, he was a free black man from Baltimore. Okay. And he came here to work at the at 4th Street AME Church. And he played piano, violin, and guitar. And he was the head of the Colored Musicians Union, too. And he wrote a biography. And so, like, going in depth and say, you know, finding out, you know, that, like, the beginning of choirs in Louisville and all that stuff, you know. So we spent 8 years really, like, digging into it, and then also having fights, you know, because you get 6 music people together. It's like, does Thomas Queen go into gospel or does he go into jazz?
All of it.
You know,
Carl Jones, music in the black community. When you talk about tracing the roots of music in the black community, everything merges.
Yeah.
And you know, people usually know, because on Sunday afternoons after church, if there was any clubbing going on, it was then. And it wasn't. And it wasn't. People like to talk about clubs like it was a bad thing. You know, maybe, and I understand the premise of the alcohol and where it can take you, but a lot of people didn't drink alcohol. And then those that did, they drank responsibly, if you will. So again, and if they didn't, that was on them, not you. So, you know, but that was the only time in the history, when you trace our history back, that we could dress up, actually dress, because you'd be dressed, because you'd be coming from church, and you'd have dinner, and then that was the only time you could socialize. Because you had to go right back to work on Monday. Monday through Saturday, you didn't get no off day. You understand? You didn't get a time to sit down and as you say, talk about what happened to you and how you felt with some of your friends and your acquaintances. You didn't get a time to relax. So, you know, that's why the black clubs were so important. That's why everybody from uptown came downtown. Because, you know, it's not that we knew how to have fun. We have fun. So, you know,
so what would you say about
naturally, you see what I'm saying? So, again, we're going to take some more, we're going to listen to some more great music because, again, our time is short and we're going to be winding it up down here pretty soon. We want to get in some Nappy Roots. We're going to get in some Night Lighters. We're going to get in some Tristan Marcel. That's who we're going to get in right now. Right, Harry? We're going to play my granddaughter, the one and only Miss Tristan Marcel. And she ain't up and coming. She is the one.
Like, what would you say what a gospel scene is in Louisville? Like from back then, it was the gospel scene, like big, like they got a lot of good gospel choirs that came out of Louisville and recorded.
Yeah, because Thomas Queen, you know, the father of the gospel, he was in Chicago, so he could come to Louisville anytime, you know. So he, when he started his the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and composers, Louisville got a chapter in the 40s.
Wow.
And it produced Keith Hunter, all these great, you know, like I said, it was like a proving ground for it, you know. And I don't think we have that necessarily today. We got some good church choirs, but we don't got the community we had back then.
Baby, I was in church on Sundays. When we left morning service, we went to afternoon service, and then we went to quartet. We went to concerts every Sunday. We be in church until 10, 11 o'clock at night. Every Sunday. I mean, every Sunday. You had big gospel concerts coming through. The Mighty Clouds of Joy. They was up here at Calvary Cathedral. Oh man, that was the spot up there at Calvary Cathedral every Sunday. And Thomas Queen and that little David, they be laying on them Hammond bees and laying it low. You hear me say? But you know, everybody they used to tell me, say, Marjorie, we know where to find you on Sunday. If there's any gospel music going on, because that's where it was at for us. You know, because it was that place in that space, and actually the frame of reference that kept us level and kept us focused and kept us together. You know, because if we had internalized the frustration and the anger that was being thrown at us consistently all the time, I mean, we've been in jail a day for real. So, you know, we're going to give you some more. We're going to get to you right now because we're not going to waste no time. Because like Michael said, and you can tell us about that too.
Look, mama, I made it. I'm finally famous. Throw that in the faces of all of the people who talk down and hate it. Am I one of the greatest? I'll let you debate it. Numbers don't lie, and all of my stats stated. If you ain't talking, get back, then save it. I'm new around here, this is Genesis.
Coming at you with Son of a King. Thank you, Beatrice, for uncovering all of these great, prolific songwriters and performers right here, Louisville's own. Soulful Sounds of Derbytown. So, Michael, what do you want to leave us with today? What did you think? So tell me, you said that one of the things that you kind of regretted was not delving a little bit deeper into the rap scene. What is it that you think that the rappers that really bring the message of the people, what is it that you think that they're doing that's not being done otherwise?
Well, I think I just staged out, you know. You know, I'm a older person, and I I'm still listening to like Rakim and stuff like that. Right. And just the newer stuff, the content just don't appeal to me, so I just lost interest in the scene. But if I was doing it again, I would go back and bring in the author who would be for that, you know. But So it's nothing bad about the scene itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like the content, the mumble rapping and all that. It just ain't me.
What you said, it just ain't nobody because you couldn't understand what
Then
they're talking about.
once you're entertaining, you have to listen to what they're saying. So that's almost not saying all rap music got bad energy, but some of the things they talking about ain't what you want to hear.
You
know, like what you just played was pretty nice. I hadn't heard of the kid.
I'm saying, B.R. from Seabrooks, he does the deep dive for the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown. He's done a fabulous job while he's been on scene here. And we missed you today, B.R. I know the ladies are wondering where you're at, right? Because they love listening to you speak, bro. But you know, that's a good thing. That's a great thing. You understand? And but again, we can't do what you do how you do it, but we do it anyhow. So we love you and we miss you, and we'll see you here next Sunday. So we're going to continue on with a little bit. Don't forget, you can pick up the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown online at Butler Books,
ButlerBooks.com, and at Carmichael's Bookstore in the Highlands or in Clifton.
And don't forget the PBS presentation of the Soulful Sounds.
It starts July 15th.
July 15th. So be looking out on PBS for us, you all. It was a beautiful program. You all are going to thoroughly enjoy that. So we got a little bit of Nappy Roots. We got some Nappy Roots coming. We got some Nappy Roots. What else? We got time for one more. Ain't it? Just it? That's it. Oh, man. Well, here we go. Hey.
Happy here and gone, ain't no change me. So rough it was, downright wrong, I tell you, nobody never gave us nothing.
All right, you all. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The Soulful Sounds of Derbytown with my special guest, Mr. Michael Jones, and Toy Lewis over here holding it down for us right here at WLLV 101.9 FM 1240 AM, coming at you with the best sounds in town, the Soulful Sounds of Derbytown. See you next week. Lord Wheels in the Creek don't ride.